Because Stanley was a perfectionist. He didn't want anything artificial. He wanted the real thing. And that's what we did in the finish. We made it a real thing.
When we did Strangelove, we had a geared head, a camera geared head set up for Stanley to play with. He was intrigued with that. So he sort of mastered the control of that business of tapping your head and rubbing your tummy and getting the handles going the right direction. He was very keen on operating himself, which he did then on Barry Lyndon and Clockwork Orange. He called me on before doing The Shining, and we sat down and talked and asked me what I'd been doing, and this conversation he said, I've decided to give up operating and take up directing and I'd like you to come back. So which was great, so I went back and operating for him again.
One occasion I was suddenly given a typewriter that Jack was using on set. Stanley had decided it was the wrong colour, and he sent it up to me about 12:30, midday. I'm shooting after lunch and I want the colour changed. So I had to work from my lunch hour very quickly, find a new colour, get it painted and return to the set. And once it was back, he approved it and sent somebody up to say thank you. It was nice of him. Actually, what the biggest challenge to me was on the Gold Room, which was where they all danced, and the bar was there. Stanley wanted everything gold, so they came up with the idea of gold tiles. I had to paint best part of 1,000 tiles gold, so they could stick them to the ceiling and the walls. And that seemed to me to go on forever. I realised it's part of the lighting that Stanley wanted. And so they could deflect their tiles, the lights wherever he wanted. But I said there must have been 1,000 or more tiles I had to paint. It went on for days and days. Every day I went in, I had these piles and piles of tiles, like plastic formwork tiles, and I had to paint them gold so they could stick them all over this set. And it looked beautiful when it was done.
I can't recall too many people visiting his sets, with the exception of his mother, who turned up on The Shining and came to visit with Stanley. And there's a lovely story because she sat with Stanley, and it was sort of interesting watching the two of them. And she was handed the script of The Shining, which contained any number of different coloured pages. And his mother said, why are there so many different pages, Stanley? Why are there so many different colours? And he said, well, every time I make a change to the script, we use another colour. And she sort of shook her head in that wonderful kind of lovely Jewish mother look and said, oh, you've made a lot of changes on this film, Stanley. So people popped in, directors came in, always from other sets. I mean, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, people there all the time because they wanted to watch Stanley work. But no, visitors to the set.
He took over every stage, even the little workshops that we had at the back, he took those over. The playroom in this film was a workshop converted, and then the toilet scene was the same workshop changed. We changed that afterwards. But he had 7, 8 and 9. 8 and 9 was Jack's apartment, where he smashes the doors. That was Jack's apartment in there. Stage 3 was the main hall of the hotel. And then we built corridors to link up all the stages so that when the boy was running along on his trolley, he went continuously. It was a continuous shot, which he couldn't normally do, but managed with this new camera. He could follow the boy all the way round, and you don't lose him. You know.
One most interesting thing there, right at the beginning, we had Garrett Brown came over with the Steadicam, which was the first movie I think he'd used it on, and Stanley very keen. I remember meeting Garrett and became good friends. And then developments were made on that, like the small boy on his pedal bike peddling around the hotel. Garrett, with Stanley, got the idea of mounting the Steadicam on the trolley. So we had the Steadicam buzzing around, with the boy on his trolley, following the boy on his trolley.
One of the first shots in the film, and it was the hotel was built on our lot at ABC, and he's got all the main artists and everybody there. Just walk up to the entrance of the hotel, and Stanley had this thing about, he had his own dolly, he had his own cameras and everything, and he said, he came in, he left the artists where they were, and he said, Mick, these dolly wheels, yeah, he said, they don't really fit my track. Do you think you could do something with them? I said, well, yeah, but not right now. I said, I've got to turn them down and so on, but yeah, I can do it. So anyway, I did one set of wheels, and he had eyes in the back of his neck. Now, there's these long tracking shots. This friend of mine, who was a focus blower for many years, was his operator, Kelvin Pike. And the artists walking down, they're tracking down, the cable boys are holding on, the boom's being run out and so on, all this movement. And I'm just standing at the back of the set and I've got these wheels behind my back. And Stanley just let the artist carry on. It was a shot for a print. And he turned around, oh, Mick, he said, can you do it? Have you done it? And that was it. He wasn't interested in the artist, he was interested in the wheels. But that was Stanley, because he was a frustrated technician, basically. And I said, yeah, fine, that's one done. If I do 4 like that, it worked perfectly. But he wasn't, because the artists were still acting their heart out, everybody's moving. And when I Stanley left the set, he's talking to me at the back. But he was a character, I loved him. He was a great guy.
I made a couple of mistakes in being asked my opinion by Stanley and actually giving it, which was a mistake. End of The Shining, he showed me the film just before it was sent to America for the press show. It literally went to the press show on the Tuesday night for a screening on Wednesday. The film was opening on the Thursday, and he showed it to me just before it went to the airport. He said, what do you think? And I said, well, Stanley, I think the ending doesn't quite work for me. I'm not quite sure the film should really end with Jack Nicholson frozen in the maze. And I just didn't understand, after the Danny with the axe, I just didn't understand the rest of it. I didn't think it was necessary to have her going back. You freeze on Jack Nicholson in the snow, and then you slowly track up to the photograph of the hotel, a photograph on the wall of the hotel of the Overlook Hotel July 21st ball, or July 4th ball in 1921. And now the story makes sense. It's the hotel that's alive. Now it all makes sense. I just didn't understand the rest of it. And I realized we were walking on the back lot of DMI Studios, and I realized that after a couple of minutes I was walking on my own. It stopped 25 paces behind me. You know the studio's back lot, it's kind of, for me, analogous with life in the film industry. There are lots of derelict, discarded staircases. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. Stairs going nowhere, which is, I guess, perhaps as it should be. And I walked slowly back towards him, sheepishly, like a little boy, not looking him in the eye. When children are in trouble, they never look parent or teacher in the eye. They always look at the floor as if that something magical was going to appear. And I said, I'm really sorry, Stanley, but he said, next time I want to know how to direct a film, I will not ask you. The film went off to the United States, opened on the Thursday. On the Friday morning, Stanley called me and said, please, can we be friends? Yes. Can you get an editor? I want to cut the film. Post-opening, as you know, one of the great stories. The film had already opened, and he chopped out the last 2 minutes of it. There's no music. I found an editor at 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, Stanley, we cannot call this man. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, good, well, at least we'll know he'll be at home, which is the kind of bizarre, wonderful logic. And we phoned him, and he was at home. And I told him exactly, Stanley, I said, I'm going to put Stanley Kubrick on the phone with you. And he said, come on, Jim, 5 o'clock in the morning in New York. I said, he truly will talk to you. He said, get out, count this, gave him the footage counts, gave him the directions to cut out the last 2 minutes of the film. Positive cuts of prints that had played in the cinema. And this, Stanley went off, he said, Jim, just make sure it happens. I got back on the phone with the editor and he said, please, just one favor, will you call the managers of the cinemas and tell them that it's okay for me to go in and cut Stanley Kubrick's film?
Stanley did it was notorious for many, many takes, and you would find actors would peak. They were quite used to peaking at sort of take 5 or 6, but and Stanley would go on beyond that, and they were trained to searching for something different. Sometimes I think he did in fact achieve that.
He did go on a bit, and we wouldn't know that, but he did, because he's very astute.
So how many takes would he do on a particular scene?
Many. 40 on Scatman Crow, they say. We never got past 40. He'd really get it right the way he wanted it, so he had to go on, and Warner Brothers had to take the cost.
He'd be more interested in the technical side. The artists could be almost doing what they like, to a degree. He was more conscious of all the technicalities of filming. And the classic was, he was doing, on The Shining, he had, here we go, I've just boggled names, Jack Nicholson. And it had got to sort of take 53. And Stanley had called me on to do something with him. And I thought, God, I should never get back to do what I'm being paid to do. So Jack said, is that okay, Stanley? He said, yeah, it's all right. He said, but do another one, Jack. Now, this is quite a long scene, and you've done it 50 times. And because Stanley would never look at the artist. He always looks at a TV monitor. He's got his back to the artist because he's got video assist. So he's looking at the other way from the artist. So, okay, that was good, Jack. So Jack said to Stanley, did you notice the different emphasis I put on that? Because he's looking at about a 9-inch monitor. So, no, I didn't notice any different from the previous ones. He said, well, if you notice, Stanley, I closed one eye throughout. I thought it was menacing. And of course, Stanley hadn't seen it, this tiny little monitor. So he said, yeah, very good, Jack. I like the idea, but do another one and keep both eyes open. But Jack hadn't closed his eyes at all. And then the next one, okay, that's a print.
Jack is brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I worked with him later on Batman, the Joker. Had the same kind of character. But Jack could use his eyes and act where other people can't do it. I mean, you really believe that Jack was mad. I mean, sometimes when he wasn't acting, he was mad, but there's again, he was very good at it. He would wait till around 8 o'clock in the evening. He was then on overtime, so his money went skywards, and he would call for champagne for everybody on the set. You know, don't matter how many there were, everybody got a glass of champagne because Jack was on overtime.
I went down, and which is slightly embarrassing, the cameraman standing with his crew and so on, and Junie Randall, the continuity girl, she said, oh, thank God you've come on, Mick Mason. We're not getting anywhere at the moment. I said, all right. So, hello, Stanley. What's the problem? Well, now this is the scenario. I won't do the accent because I'm not very good at American accents. This is the scenario. He said, the game is, he said, this is all a dream thing, and the lift comes down, yeah. Then we're shooting this on the lot, in the tank. He said, the lift comes down, the doors open, and gallons and gallons of blood come flooding out. Gallons and gallons. I said, right. He said, what speed would you shoot it at? I said, that's very embarrassing, Stanley. What do you mean? I said, well, your cameraman is there. Ask him. You don't have to ask me that. No, I'm asking you. I said, well, it's embarrassing. So John Alcott, tell him, Mick, what you think. He said, we would never get to it. I said, 144 frames. Why do you say that? I said, because you've asked me. I'm telling you. If I'm wrong, don't listen. I said, but we'd do better than that, Stanley. You've got all these unit cars and chauffeurs, yeah. I said, if you shoot a test at 144, and I know I'm right, you can get a day process at Studio Film Labs in Waldorf Street, Mead Street, right? And I said, you'd have it back just after lunch. Then you can decide what to use on the street. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, that's what we do. And he came back in the afternoon. You were absolutely dead right. 144 is perfect. That's what we're going to shoot at.
Stage 8 has got an open floor. It comes from the car park that allowed him to walk up the stairs into the living room. Then stage 9 was the bedroom. And that's where he smashes through the door. That's the bathroom and the bedroom are side by side. Of course, there was no Star Wars stage then, otherwise Stanley would have had that. He would have used that.
He was open to ideas, very open to ideas, and there are things on the screen there which are somebody else's idea, but he acknowledged the fact that if somebody had a better idea than it would be used. But he had the ability to recognise a better idea if there was one.
It was all very, very long hours, but Jack Nicholson was brilliant on it. He never forgot a line, and he used to go back to his room and he used to just he's fine. Everybody was very good, and I'll never the first day on that, this Scatman Crowther. And Stanley was said to me, go and see if he knows his lines. Okay, I was doing as I'm told. So I went up and said, excuse me, Mr. Crowther, do you know your lines? Are you okay? He said, I only do my lines with Mr. Kubrick. I said, oh, okay. So I went off somewhere. So Stanley, does he know his lines? I said, he'll only do them with you. So he went over to him, he said, when I tell someone like June to do something, that's law. I want her to do the lines with you. Oh, I am so sorry. Yeah. I'll do my lines. I'll do my lines. I couldn't get rid of him. Do you want to know my lines now? Do you? I said, no, I know your lines. You know, you're fine, you're fine. No, I'd like to do my lines. Anyway, one day we did a shot. He never knew his lines.